Hi folks, I'm Clive Gilson, the story guy. Today I've got something a little special for you. This is a story called Aphrodite. It's one of the new original tales from my latest collection, Melodies in Black Ink. It's a story where myth, longing and twist of the unexpected all come together. So settle in, grab a cuppa, and let's begin. The bass line thumped through the floorboards of Club Elysium, a mechanical heartbeat that seemed to mock the organic rhythms of its patrons. Under the dusty crystal chandeliers, the light fractured and dim like broken memories. The dancers moved with an eerie precision. Their steps were too perfect, too rehearsed, as if they were clockwork figures performing on command. The air shimmered with sequins and silk, punctuated by the sharp glint of military medals that adorned shoulders and chests like fantastic constellations. A superannuated colonel, or at least that's what his epaulets made him out to be, spun past in a blur of midnight blue and tarnished brass. His medals clinked together with each turn, a discordant melody that spoke of battles no one cared to remember anymore. The wars had taken everything, even the meaning of valour, leaving behind only these trinkets that people now wore as fashion statements rather than battle honours. In the hazy light, his face was a mask of calculated revelry, painted with the same desperate joy that seemed endemic to the club's patrons. The air was thick enough to chew on, a potent cocktail of cigarette smoke, cheap perfume and expensive regret. It clung to the velvet walls and settled on the lungs of the dancers like a second skin, a shroud they wore willingly in their nightly ritual of forgetting. Aphrodite observed it all from her position against the wall, one hand holding a half-empty glass of wine, the other bringing a cigarette to her lips, in a gesture as old as vice itself. The wine was mediocre, but that hardly mattered anymore. Nothing here was quite what it pretended to be, herself included. Her eyes, ancient and knowing, cut through the elaborate masquerade before her. These weren't partygoers, they were survivors, each one carrying on their own personal war beneath layers of makeup and manufactured glamour. They moved faster and faster, as if they could somehow outrun the ghosts that chased them across the dance floor. The music aided their flight, its relentless rhythm demanding movement, insisting on distraction from the ruins that waited outside the club's heavily draped windows. She'd been watching long enough to see the patterns. 7 out of every 10 faces were unremarkable, blending into the backdrop like particularly well-dressed pieces of furniture. 4 out of 5 moved through the space in a daze, their eyes glazed and distant, their bodies operating on automatic as they performed the expected motifs of enjoyment. They were sleepwalkers in their own lives, barely conscious enough to maintain the illusion of living. The cigarette burned down between her fingers as she observed them with the detached curiosity that came from millennia of watching civilizations rise and fall. This wasn't her first death dance, nor would it be her last. Pride had become their last refuge, their final fortress against despair. They wore their carefully constructed identities like costumes in this designer world, changing personalities as easily as they changed their clothes. The wars had stripped everything else of meaning, leaving only this desperate dance in a crumbling temple to a god that no one remembered how to worship anymore. Even she, Aphrodite, once revered as the goddess of love and beauty, now walked among them unknown and unrecognised. Her former divinity had become just another accessory in a world too broken to believe in gods. She could taste the misery, bitter and sharp beneath the veneer of shallow laughter and cynical conversation. It was her misery too. Some sought solace in each other's arms, in darkened corners and on plush divans, but even their passion was hollow. These were mechanical pleasures that never quite reached the hearts of the revellers in the club. Real love had become as rare as the stars, now hidden behind the perpetual haze that shrouded the city. No one loved anymore, and so her divinity had faded until she too was now mortal and resigned to her fate. Tonight felt different, though. She could feel it in the air, in the subtle shift of cosmic weights and measures. Something was coming. A comet, a revelation, a moment of truth that would tear through their carefully constructed reality like tissue paper in a soaking storm. The balance was beginning to tilt, though the dancers were too lost in their revels to notice. But they danced on, clinging to their illusions, too proud to stop and too broken to stand still. Aphrodite watched as a young woman in a tattered ball gown twirled past, her face a perfect mask of ecstasy that didn't quite hide the trembling of her lower lip. They were all like that, beautiful, desperate, doomed. With a deliberate motion, Aphrodite stubbed out her cigarette on the marble floor, adding one more scar to a surface already pitted with similar marks. The truth would fall upon them all soon enough, burning away their fabricated world like morning mist. But tonight, for this one last night, she would let them have their moment of false grace. Let them dance and drink and pretend that tomorrow would never come. After all, even moribund gods could be merciful sometimes. Okay, so let me tell you about the song that sparked the story Aphrodite. The song is States of Grace by Love Swing. It's this beautifully composed track that came out back in April 2021 as part of an EP released on Bandcamp. The whole collection is packed with great songs like The Brave, Gravity, Nightingale and others. Now, Love Swing has a bit of a quirky origin story. Apparently they first got together in 1993 when three old-school hippie types did a fundraiser for their local school. They originally went by the name The Tantric Love Swing, which is a name and a half, but apparently some hardcore Sting fans were just not having it, so they had to drop the tantric bit, and they just rolled with Love Swing. The main force behind the band is Rob Swan. He's the songwriter, and he's been at it for a few years with a rotating crew of musical co-conspirators. Along the way, they've put out a few singles and EPs, and there's a full album too, Archetypes, also up on Bandcamp if you want to explore more of their sound. Now, I will be totally honest here. I've known Rob for a little while. We crossed paths thanks to some shared activities, our wives being the source of many of those activities originally. And he's even helped me with some editorial bits on my books. So yes, there is a personal connection here. But States of Grace genuinely has stuck with me over many, many years. And I found it to be a perfect emotional backdrop for the story that you've just listened to. So if you're curious, the track is written by Rob Swan and Justin Welch, and it's released under Create Sound via Bandcamp. You can check it out. It might just inspire something in you too. And there is a link to their site on Bandcamp in the description below the video. As I've said, that was Aphrodite, which is one of the stories from my new collection, Melodies in Black Ink. Each tale in the book is sparked by a song that's moved me at some point over the last 20 or 30 years, turning music into story and emotion into narrative. If you ever felt a song get under your skin, then this is the collection for you, I think. Now, you can pick up a copy of the book in print and digital formats from most good online and retail bookstores. And there's also a link at the foot of the page and in the description below the video. Thanks for listening and staying tuned this far. There's more where this came from, so please do tune in again. Take care.